And you know what? Just to show everybody, it's probably better you standing now. Are you looking seated? You standing, and
sure.
That way you got more.
Whenever I have the opportunity to sit, I sit. Flip around.
So you're gonna flip
I do. Okay, why don't you explain what you're doing with the rope?
Now, as you guys know, the seated slump, I don't know if you guys do this, it's important. You know, we always talk about stretching. We're stretching everything, all soft tissues, including nerves. And this slump test, if you look at Butler's work, is pretty phenomenal. What I don't think they're doing enough of is addressing the soft tissues within the test. You know, they're focusing mainly on the nerve, the nerve, the nerve. Well, everything's being stretched. So this is one of those things where you can slowly bring the body into it. So I might start Brandy off more on extension. And then what we can do is we can do a bottom-up approach or a top-down. We're going to go top-down. So she goes into cervical flexion, thoracic flexion, lumbar flexion. And our focus is going to be releasing these connective tissues, 12th rib all the way down to the sacrum. And like we were talking in the group in here, is when you were doing the side-lying one, you have a good mechanical advantage. Get on the sacrum. There's multifidi that lie right on the sacrum. There's connective tissue that lies on it. Go over the spinous processes. We've been working lateral. It's okay to get in there. That ligament is very, very strong. You ever get that audible popping sound when you flex your spine? Pop, 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 pop. That's skipping of the connective tissue. It'd be great to improve the translation of that tissue as you flex your spine. And that's basically what we're doing here. Is we're loosening all that up.
Are you not
Yeah.
Okay.
So then what Vince just brought up is top down, cervical, thoracic, lumbar. Then she can really pull and bring her ankles into it. Now we're getting a dural stretch.
Feels good, Brandon.
And it's
This late, you know.
what's that?
Feeling it to take
Okay.
place.
So, and we want to have her pump that. See, that's what I'm looking for, is if she's pumping that, every time she's up, I can get on the 12th rib right now. Okay, and it could be a thumb record if you're using your thumb.
Yeah.
So you got to back up your thumb, save your joints, okay? Back it up, get in your lunge position, and if you can extend back with no discomfort, awesome. If she extends back, I can lock onto the ledge of that tissue. Okay, she's going to push me out. That's normal. Okay, so we're going to try to do our best to go inferior as she flexes. So cervical spine, thoracic spine, I'm locked on. I'll move my hand out of there. And I'm just going to now glide. Traction, tension, glide. Now, when you hear us say traction, tension, and glide, we're getting this tension, as Vince always says. That traction can be because she's actively moving her body too. It's not always us doing all the work, like in the last one, pushing down on the sacrum. It can be the person driving. And that's what you want to try to do, is what authentic driver can I add into this artificial? Okay? So you want to add to that?
I tend to want to come in here and do a little bit of work bilaterally too. So I'll take 3 thumbs, and this does require some thumb strength that you guys will develop. So I'm following up PSIS, flex. And I can get in pretty deep, but don't worry about that right now because we're just talking about placement and feeling and things like that. Keep going, keep going. Okay, good. Back up. And what I'll do is I'll come in from the top right. It's actually very similar to what we just did. We're just sitting, okay, just a little bit of a different position. Here what I'm going to do is actually rotate down, lock my thumbs down. And now I'm going against her stretch. So it should be a little more intense. Okay, I'm using my body. You guys try not to muscle this. I got 180 pounds now. I'm not in the gym much. She's actually pulling the tissue right out from under me. So if there's any adhesion or scarring or any gunked up tissue in there, it's just going to get pulled through. Okay, and make sure you guys finish that at the sacrum.
Is there any contraindications for this?
Contraindications for this?
Discogenic pain or?
Yeah, for sure. If it's too intense, then you can go in and bend a little bit. If the dural tension is too much, particularly when you start going through neck flexion and hip flexion, it might be too much.
However, eventually you want to get there. This is one of the biggest things with threshold, the saran wrap analogy. If you're wrapped in saran wrap, what out of all the soft tissues is the most reactive? Nerves. So when you think of nerves doing their job, they're mainly ligamentous, they're very well protected in this sheath. It's like a brake cable. When you squeeze that brake, that thing is supposed to slide through. Right. And where it's entrapped is the big question. Who knows? We always go to the MRI and go, oh, it's the disc or whatever. But a lot of these people have entrapments all through the fascial network. So eventually I'd like to get the person there, you know, so they have that ability to go through these excursions. Because the body's gonna protect itself. That's how we get so stiff. As we age, we always go in, we don't go out. They're not overly aggressive, but good news is you're gonna know. Yeah, a lot of you are gonna do this and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. But like Vince says, we'll back off at the knee and might make a record of that. Say, okay, we got about 15-degree knee flexion. She can do it. And then we get into the cervical spine, you start to understand the difference between cervical predominant problems. In other words, the criminal's up here causing this dural tension as opposed to maybe the low back.
One more thing, we do a push-pull.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do is you just play with this, because what you'll find is you'll feel the L5-S one really gapping. You get a really good decompression. What she's going to do is put this up on her toes more and toe it forward. Basically, she's driving her femur back, and she's going to hold the pelvis back. Now with her arm, she's going to pull. So we want to take her upper body, her upper torso that way, drive her femur back that way. Okay, do you guys understand here where we're getting the gap? And when you do this, you'll feel it. Okay. And then what we're going to do is just come right back in. Okay, so it's the same thing, but they're going to just get a different decompression back there.
And one variation to this, because this often happens, is, oh, it's that. And you start to think, is it the hamstring, sacrotuberous ligament, all that fascial sling? If that's the case, I could have Brandy on this table actually go here and do it. So I actually put this leg into extension and now do the same work this way.
Nice.
Okay, so now I'm getting a little closer to function. She says, you know what it is, man, it's been chronic for a long time. Every time my right foot goes out, and then you assess that, the tissue translation's not gliding and sliding the way it's supposed to. Remember, adjacent tissues are supposed to slide and glide, they're not supposed to stick. That's what adhesions do. It causes all this problem in the movement. You could have her, obviously the table's too high for her right now, but you bring the table down, and now we can actually put her in that position, but in a situation where she's stable to handle our force going into her tissue to remodel it. Okay, and then you can play with different positions. Okay, so then you can actually put your left foot down and press your ball of your foot down to help us too. Okay, so go ahead and go through the motion. Typically, you're going to go cervical, thoracic. Does that increase the intensity a bit? You feel that more or less?
Still, actually my hamstrings.
Yeah, it's that drill tension. Once again, what would be good for an evaluation, if you're not really sure, is you test this side and you go to the other side. Okay? We try to figure out where in this track we're getting that abnormal tension. Because again, in movement, what's going to happen is the body's going to go in.